Have you ever felt like time doesn't really behave the way that we think it does? If you have, I have too. It's like you're always remembering something before it even happens. What's that all about? It's almost as if time is playing a trick on us, and things get wild when we start questioning the very structure of time. You see, there's this idea, and it's called retrocausality. Retrocausality. And it sounds kind of cool. It's very retro, if you know what I mean. So retrocausality is the idea that the future might be able to reach back and influence the past.
Imagine that this line represents time. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985.
That's right? The future basically going back and making a decision and then going to the future. Wait, no. It's got to be your bowl. Anywho, that's right. The future, yes. What has yet to come could actually have an effect on what has already happened. So let me say that again. It's not predicting it. It's not foreseeing it. It's actually going back and affecting it effectively. Saying, I think. So imagine a world where the future sends back signals to the past like a comic game of catch. Now, this isn't all sci-fi, even though I do love sci-fi. This is coming from real experiments that can kind of boggle the mind. So let's talk about the delayed choice quantum eraser. So this eraser experiment, it suggests that the decision to measure a particle made in the present can seemingly alter the past behavior of that particle. Okay. Whew. This is gonna be a little difficult to try to explain, but got all the time in the world? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, think of it like this. It's like you ordered a drink after the show, but happy hour's over with. But the bartender retroactively charges you the discount price. You've already had the drink, but now the cost is different. And you may be intoxicated, but that makes physics even more wild, right? I mean, it's kind of like time is making its own rules and we're just along for the ride. Now, the reason that I actually came up with this episode about time is because of this article I read about this doctor. Her name is Julia Mossbridge. She's a neuroscientist and found a statistical anomaly during an experiment with photons. And she had a weird hypothesis, some weird questions. And I found the questions kind of fascinating. She doesn't just ask how time flows, whether it's just in one direction. She asks whether we've been feeling time all wrong. And that really made me think, if time has feelings, what does that feel like? Come on this journey with me. So Dr. Mossbridge studied how decisions we haven't made yet might influence what we perceive or even see before we make those decisions. What she's suggesting is some supernatural thing, and it's actually something she's called casual ambiguous duration sorting. I'm going to call it CADS for short, because once again, that's the acronym. Okay, now I have to be a little bit clear when it comes to this study, because from my understanding, this hasn't been peer reviewed, and right now it's kind of dancing on the lines of a little bit of fringe science in my opinion, but it still brought out some really cool questions that I kind of wanted to go over, so let me see if I can somehow break some of your minds out there. All right, so CADS is a really subtle thing. Imagine it like your brain catching whispers from tomorrow. You ever get that feeling just before a big life change or when you experience déjà vu? That kind of, eerie sensation like I've been here before. I've lived this already. So that feeling, the feeling of something being both new and old at the same time, might not actually be a glitch in your brain. It could be your mind tuning into signals from your future. Now that is strange. So what is the CADS effect? Now, the CADS effect was observed in experiments involving optical systems, where the output of a photomultiplier, this is basically like a device that catches photons, varied depending on the duration of the experimental run. A parameter was determined after the data was collected. So specifically, the number of photons detected before the run's duration was decided seemed to correlate with the future decision, implying a form of retrocausality. So did you get that? Well, it took me a minute too. So let's see if we can make that a little simpler. Here's an analogy that I would like to use. Okay, let's go over the movie theater clap. Now, imagine you're in a theater where a performer is about to walk on stage. The lights are dim and the audience sitting in silence. Now here's the weird part. After the show ends, the theater director decides whether to show a 5-minute highlight reel or a 30-minute behind-the-scenes documentary about the performance. You don't know which version the director will choose. It's a future decision made after the show starts. But when the researchers replay the footage of the audience clapping at the very beginning, before the show even started, they find the early applause is somehow different depending on whether the director chose the short or long documentary. The long documentary is eventually chosen. People seem to clap more enthusiastically at the beginning, as if anticipating a bigger deal. If the short version is picked, the initial clapping was less intense. So they have the results from the future looking back at old video and notice that there's a correlation between the two. Almost as if the audience knew which one was going to come and they clapped because of it, as unrelating as that is. Just to clarify, the confusion really comes from that the decision wasn't made until after the applause happened, but the early applause seemed to influence that choice by the future decision. Okay, now the disclaimer. While the CADS effect is not yet a widely recognized or standard measurement from what I could see in mainstream science, it has garnered some attention for its potential implications. Dr. Mossbridge's work in this area has been discussed in scientific communities as basically a really cool interest in the intersection of physics, consciousness, and time perception. But this, I can't stress enough, needs further research, and they got to replicate these studies, and they need to validate the findings, because the implications just are questions right now. So the CADS effect really represents kind of a peculiar area of study that was introduced by Dr. Mossbridge, which is cool, and aiming to explore the boundaries of causality and time perception. Honestly, this is not really established in mainstream science yet, so it contributes to ongoing discussions about this and the nature of time and consciousness and all that jazz. But does that mean that time isn't as straight and rigid as we think? That maybe the lines of time are blurred and we're just waiting for the signal to catch up? And my question is, what does really the flow of time mean in this respect? If the future can really nudge the past, what does that mean for everything we know about things like free will, fate, and choice? Can you imagine a world where your actions today aren't solely the results of your decisions, but are already influenced by something that hasn't even happened yet? Really let that sink in. To think about it, if retrocausality is real, then maybe we aren't in full control of our actions. Maybe our free will is not less free than we thought. Like, am I choosing to say this now, or was it already written into the timeline because of something I'll do tomorrow? It's kind of a weird loop of cause and effect. It's like writing a sentence and then realizing that the last word you wrote actually changed the meaning of the first. Can you imagine how that would alter everything we thought we knew about the decisions we make every single day? Honestly, this really reminds me of my favorite doctor in the Doctor Who series. And he would say,
people assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Now, you might think this is all far-fetched, but what if this is just a concept that our minds really just have trouble grasping? Kind of like the fourth dimension. And what do really women want? So much to ponder, so much to think about, you know? So if time bends and retrocausality is possible, then every action you take today might be as much a consequence of your future as it is of your past. So that's the weird part about time, is it's always moving forward. Yeah, but maybe. In some mysterious corner of the universe, it's not as straightforward as we've kind of always assumed. Maybe freeing Willy wasn't really freeing Willy. I think what I meant to say was, free will ain't freeing. But I was trying to use a Willy from Free Willy, but that didn't make sense. So, sorry. You ever heard that your brain makes decisions before you do? Seriously. There are EEG scans that show that our subconscious might light up before we consciously realize that we've made a decision. You're not choosing to take that sip of coffee. Your brain already knew you were going to do it. You were just catching up to your own brain, honestly. Now, as much as that sounds like one of those apocalyptic, dystopian type of movies, here's the thing. Our brains are processing decisions before we even become consciously aware of them. In essence, our subconscious mind is running a parallel timeline that makes these choices for us. So if our mind can predict our actions, could it be that time itself is working with us, guiding us into actions that we've chosen freely? What? Whew, this hurts my brain. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled program. What if retrocausality isn't just about particles in a lab somewhere? What if it's happening in our minds all of the time? What if the things we think we've chosen were actually set in motion by something that hasn't even happened yet? Let's talk about quantum ghost text. Imagine this. Scientists on the cutting edge of quantum research are speculating that you might one day be able to send a quantum signal backward in time. I mean, I'm not talking about full messages, but something that would be really simple, like a nudge, a whisper from the future to the past. Just a tiny bit of information, a data packet even, that can be sent across time like a digital postcard from tomorrow. So picture this. Your future self, not quite a ghost, but more like an echo, sends you a little message. And the message says, "Hey brother, don't go out tonight." Now, you don't understand why, but something inside you says, all right, I should probably stay in. And then the next day you find out something happened on that very night, maybe a close call, maybe your friends were going to prank you, you were going to be robbed, maybe it was just a totally bad situation, but you should thank your future self for saying no. And the question kind of becomes, was your future self sending a message back in time, or was it just a pure coincidence? All right, I want to hit you with a paradox that I actually heard about from Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. If you ever check him out on Star Talk, fantastic host and science enthusiast and actually a doctor in this, so take his word more than mine. Just saying. So imagine you observe a friend slipping on a banana peel. To prevent the accident, you send a warning message back in time using a hypothetical faster-than-light particle called a tachyon. I guess in short, you have the ability to text message back in time. I really need that phone plan. However, your friend receives the message, but just before the slip happens, they're looking down to read it, and consequently, they don't see the banana peel, which leads to their fall. So ironically, the attempt to prevent the accident actually becomes the very cause of the accident. And this paradox really highlights the complexities of retrocausality, where in effect, the slip is caused by inaction, the warning that occurs after the effect itself. It really definitely challenges our conventions of understanding time and causality, suggesting that events might be interconnected in linear ways. So in that situation, did the warning cause the fall, or was the fall always coming and the warning was just part of the setup? And this, my friends, is called the paradox of the casual loop, or the bootstrap paradox. There's probably other names for it as well, but it's really the perfect conundrum. That's as much emotional as it is scientific. The warning might have seemed like a simple prediction, but what if the act of the warning set in motion your eventual fall? Now, here's a crazy twist. Most physical laws, they don't care which direction time runs, whether it's gravity, electromagnetism, Newton's laws, all of them work just fine whether time is flowing forward or whether time is flowing backwards. It's the same. And here's the catch. The only reason we feel time moving forward is because of something called entropy. Now, entropy is this concept that says things in the universe naturally fall apart. Things age, decay, they break down over time. And that's what makes us feel the arrow of time, right? Like that visual? So it's like a clock ticking in one direction and it never stops. But what if entropy isn't the only force at play here? What if time is a lot more flexible than we think? So what if entropy is just the beat of the universe? So if entropy could be the beat of the universe and we've been dancing in one direction because we honestly don't know how to spin the other way. What if we could learn how to move backward through time the way we move forward through time? If we can learn how to manipulate entropy itself, that portion of it, ladies and gentlemen, is far above my pay grade. And just about anybody's pay grade on Earth, just letting you know. All right, I told you that this was going to be a mind-bending episode, and if you're still with me, here we go. This mind-bender comes from some physicists that say time doesn't flow at all. Oh, okay. Instead, every moment that's ever happened and ever will happen will all already exist. It's all like it's a giant block of moments stacked one on top of another. We're just moving through it frame by frame, kind of like scrolling through a photo album. Makes sense, right? So that's called the block universe theory. And in this model, time is static. Every moment, every second, every event is laid out in front of us like a map. We move through it as if we were flipping through the pages in a book. We're unaware that the book has already been written. So what does that retrocausality mean in that world? It's not about breaking the rules. It's about flipping to a page that you've already bookmarked. I know I've mentioned this before, but do people still read books? Is that still a thing? Are we still making that happen? Okay. So continuing on down this rabbit hole, let's talk about the two-state vector formalism. I think I said that right. Formalism? Okay. Or we're going to call it TSVF because that's the acronym. So this is a concept from quantum physics that pushes retrocausality to its limit. Not that it hasn't already reached this limit with me and my audience, I'm assuming, but this interpretation suggests that quantum system isn't just described by a wave function, that it also evolves forward in time. But oh no, it also evolves backward from the future. So imagine watching a movie, but instead of it being played forward like usual, it's played both forwards and backwards simultaneously. Every moment of the present is influenced by both the past and the future states. And this really challenges everything we thought we knew about causality, which I gotta be honest, I didn't know much about it to begin with, and I'm regretting this episode already. But think about it like this. You see a flash of lightning, and in that moment, the past, how that lightning was formed, and the future, how the weather will change, both affect your present perception. And this isn't science fiction either, it's quantum reality, or at least it's a plausible model that helps us understand certain quantum phenomena, like entanglement and particle measurements. In my opinion, whatever happens in the quantum realm, if you will, Ant-Man can stay there and try to figure it all out, because I don't get it. But okay. Quantum. As we continue on down this rabbit hole, we have a physicist named John Archibald that has something to do with Wheeler's delayed choice experiment. It's a thought experiment that takes the classic double slit experiment and blows it up to cosmic proportions. To be able to talk about the quantum slit experiment, it has to do with how particles can form different patterns based on if they're being observed or not. But for this, imagine a photon being emitted from a distant quasar. Its path is bent by a massively huge galaxy acting as a gravitational lens. Billions of years later, we decide how we want to observe this photon. Our choice seems to determine whether the photon behaved as a wave or a particle, but it's long after it's set off on its journey. But this raises a profound question. Does our present decisions influence the photons of the past? Or does it mean that the universe is an orchestrated event in such a way that all events, all decisions are interconnected beyond our conventional understanding of time? Please comment if you understood anything I just said so that I could understand it better myself. So as we get into even more mind-bending things, I would also like to bring up something like consciousness, where some scientists speculate that consciousness itself might be entangled with the fabric of time. It could be that our thoughts, decisions, or feelings today might actually be influenced by events in our past. There have been experiments in both neuroscience and quantum physics that hint that our minds might operate in a temporal nonlinear way, where we access information from both the past and the future. What if consciousness is not just a passive observer of time, but an active participant? Kind of like directing the flow of events across time, maybe? I told you I was going to have more questions than answers on this one, so yeah. Okay, imagine your thoughts stretching both forward and backwards in time. reaching into your past experiences, come here, while simultaneously pulling insights from your future self, come here. This suggests that retrocausality might not be just a feature of particles in a lab, but a central aspect of human consciousness itself. So maybe the decisions we make are not just the result of past experiences or immediate reactions, but of a future self influencing us, guiding us from tomorrow like a mentor we haven't met yet. Okay, that was a lot to take in, so let's just take a step back for a minute and look at the implications of all of this. If the future can really influence the past, then it's not just physics that kind of gets shaken, it's the entire structure of our philosophy and ethics and even our daily lives. If retrocausality holds true, what does it mean for moral responsibility? I mean, are we truly accountable for actions that might be predetermined by future events? And how does that affect the choices we make every single day? And let's take it one step further. How does this shift for our understanding of fate and destiny? I mean, we've always thought that we move forward in time by shaping our future, but what if our future selves are already shaping us? Maybe the choices we make aren't always as free as we believe them to be. Instead, they really could be part of a much larger interconnected web of time. So retrocausality, it really challenges everything we think about free will, about the now, and it blurs the lines between the past, the present, and the future. And to me, it really forces us to reconsider what it means to truly be free. The next time you catch yourself wondering about the future, though, or looking back at a moment you can't explain, remember, time might not be what you think it is. And maybe, just maybe, the answers you're seeking are waiting for you in the moments to come. Time may be a mystery, but I think it's one that's worth exploring. And I really do appreciate every single person on here who has subscribed. And if you haven't, please hit the subscribe button. And I'm looking forward to putting out more mind-bending, mind-destroying stuff in the future. So if you're a masochist and like that kind of stuff, let's go. Bye, everybody.
Cruising slow, street lights paint the scene.